People often ask me, how did you become a millionaire? It's a question I never thought I'd hear growing up. Back then, the word millionaire felt like something reserved for a different universe, one I wasn't part of and maybe never would be. But here I am, and today I want to take you on the journey. The real, unfiltered story of how I went from barely scraping by to crossing that life-changing milestone. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was a long road filled with mistakes, learning, and a lot of stubborn persistence. Let me start at the beginning. I grew up in a small town, in a modest house where money was tight. My parents worked hard. My dad in construction, my mom as a school teacher, and even though they gave me everything they could, financial struggles were a constant backdrop. We didn't have much, but we had enough. As a kid, I remember watching television shows that glamorized wealth and success, dreaming of a life where I could travel, buy whatever I wanted, and never worry about bills. But in reality, college came with a mountain of debt, and the world outside felt overwhelming. After graduation, I landed a decent but low-paying job. I was grateful, but I quickly realized that paycheck-to-paycheck living wasn't going to get me anywhere close to those dreams. I'd see my friends spending on gadgets, eating out, or going on vacations, while I couldn't even afford a night out. That feeling of being stuck, watching life pass me by, it was painful. I knew I had to find a way out, but I had no idea how. The turning point came on a freezing winter night. I was sitting alone in my tiny apartment, scrolling through my banking app, and I saw something that hit me hard. My balance was $2,037, not $23. That moment felt like a punch to the gut. I realized that if I didn't change something, I would be stuck in this cycle forever. But where do you start when you know almost nothing about money, investing, or growing wealth? I decided I had to educate myself. I borrowed books from the library, stayed up late listening to podcasts, and spent weekends watching YouTube videos about personal finance. Slowly, the fog began to lift. Concepts like budgeting, compound interest, and investing started to make sense. For the first time, I began to see money not just as something to spend, but as a tool to build a future. I started with the basics. I created a simple budget, tracking every dollar coming in and going out. I cut down on unnecessary expenses, no more daily coffee runs, no impulsive shopping. I learned the power of saving even small amounts regularly. Then came the debts. Student loans, credit card balances, they were crushing me. But I committed to paying them off aggressively, focusing on the highest interest debts first. It wasn't glamorous, and it meant sacrifices, but each payment felt like a victory. I built an emergency fund just enough to cover 3 months' expenses, so I wouldn't be blindsided by unexpected costs. Those early steps felt slow, but they laid the foundation for what was to come. After about a year of saving and stabilizing, I felt ready to take a risk. I opened a brokerage account and bought a small number of shares in an index fund. It was a modest investment, only a few $100s, but it represented a new mindset. I learned to be patient. Instead of chasing quick wins or trying to time the market, I committed to steady, long-term growth. I kept contributing a little each month, watching my investment grow alongside my savings. Meanwhile, I was hungry for more. I started researching side hustles, anything that could bring in extra income. I launched a small online store selling handmade goods I was passionate about. It was far from perfect. I struggled with marketing, inventory management, and customer service, but it gave me a new sense of control. I wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore, I was building something of my own. Those first years were a grind. I worked long hours, my full-time job during the day, side hustle evenings and weekends. There were times when I felt overwhelmed and doubted if all this effort would ever pay off. But slowly, things began to shift. The store started bringing in steady income. I reinvested every dollar back into the business, upgrading the website, improving product quality, and hiring freelancers to help with marketing. Mistakes? Plenty. I launched campaigns that flopped, lost inventory, and faced tough customer complaints. But each failure taught me something new: how to adapt, listen to feedback, and stay resilient. I also started diversifying. I bought my first rental property, a small fixer-upper that I renovated and rented out. It wasn't glamorous, but it provided passive income and valuable experience. After several years of hard work, sacrifices, and smart decisions, the day came when my business hit the $1 million revenue milestone. It was surreal. I remember staring at the numbers, hardly believing what I was seeing. But what struck me more than the money was what that milestone represented: freedom. Freedom to make choices, to take risks, to dream bigger. I didn't stop there. I continued expanding my business, investing in new ventures, and improving my financial literacy. The journey wasn't just about the destination, but the growth and lessons along the way. Looking back now, I realize how much this journey shaped not just my bank account, but who I am as a person. Becoming a millionaire wasn't a single moment of triumph. It was a series of small decisions, setbacks, and victories that added up over time. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that there's no straight path to success. The road was messy, full of detours and failures I never saw coming. Sometimes I felt completely lost, questioning whether I had made the right choices. But each mistake became a stepping stone, a chance to learn, grow, and refine my approach. I also learned that mindset matters more than anything. When I started, I didn't have much confidence, but I had determination. I learned to embrace discomfort, to take risks even when the outcome was uncertain, and to keep pushing forward when giving up seemed easier. That stubborn persistence, more than any business strategy, carried me through. Another thing that surprised me was how much this journey required me to change as a person. I had to develop patience, real patience, because wealth doesn't appear overnight. I had to become disciplined, learning to say no to instant gratification in favor of long-term gains. And I had to surround myself with people who inspired and challenged me, because no one succeeds alone. Looking at my life today, I'm grateful not just for the money, but for the freedom it represents. Freedom to make choices that align with my values, to invest in projects I care about, and to help others along the way. I also feel a responsibility. Wealth is powerful, but it's only meaningful if it's used wisely. That's why I'm committed to continuous learning, to giving back, and to staying grounded. So that's my story, from 2037 to a $1 million milestone, a journey marked by small steps, big risks, and relentless hustle. If you're listening and wondering if it's possible for you, let me assure you, it is. You don't need to start perfect or have all the answers. Just start, learn, adapt, and keep going. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real stories about money, business, and growth. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your story or answer your questions. Remember, your journey is just beginning. Stay curious, stay persistent, and above all, believe in yourself.